All right, gentlemen.
Right here's Black Rock Mountain, men. 15 to 20 minutes ago, Alpha Koi became engaged by 50 to 100 fighters up around and on the vicinity of Black Rock Mountain. They're also taking some indirect fires from this location. They hope to have them backstopped by Bravo Koi and compress the enemy between the two of them, setting the conditions for us to come in and do our air assault.
What's our plan for this evening?
Basically, we're rolling in with the attack of the command element in order to secure a high traffic region for the Taliban.
So you'll be with command element in a Black Hawk, and I'll be with the Joes and a Chinook, yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, you got the better spot, though.
Got anybody in there?
I'm looking through.
Right there, fucking, hold on a second.
Oh shit, right.
Arrow 2-5, we have multiple enemy in trees engaging west of road. We're getting shot at.
Oh shit, they're getting engaged, sir.
That's affirmative. We are taking fire from the west side. And Hard Rock, this is Arrow. We need permission to engage the tree line where the RPG came from.
Roger, you're cleared to engage.
Alright, fucking light that tree line up right there. Hit it.
Roger, firing.
Just left, hit it.
Roger.
Okay, make sure that okay, looking good.
Oh shit.
Hit it.
RPG right over there.
Right, hit it. We have multiple RPGs coming from that side at the aircraft. Have them. Right, hit it. That's the guy right there.
Firing.
Hit it again. Good man, good
Defensive items down in the engagement area, break. Stand by, we're missing friendlies. We're trying to get them out of there.
There was a huge, huge air assault operation. This was involving the 1st and 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, an entire regiment. It was involving 7th Special Forces Group, more than 15 different air assets. It was a huge operation, and it was going to be going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And within that first hour, one of the Chinooks had been shot down by a Taliban surface-to-air missile. They had to try to secure this huge flaming crash site, and they didn't know if there were any survivors.
What happened when you touched down?
We had heard that there had been a Chinook that was shot down, but I just focused on my job of shooting video and trying to get the story.
Roger, we heard there was a downed aircraft. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I can confirm.
What's the status of the aircraft over?
I couldn't tell exactly where it was coming from. There's just explosions everywhere.
Is everybody looking to our north here?
Hey, we gotta get over this compound so we can get comms up.
We're trying to move to the crash site. We have troops in contact. Friendly casualties.
Good to go, sir. We have enough space up there we can move into.
Is it a building?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, buddy.
Take your compounds instead of air support.
I'd linked up with the commander, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Menace, and we were moving to clear a compound so he'd have a secure location because they needed to control 15 aircraft that were racked and stacked in the sky.
Hard Rock 42, this is Hotel 15, going down the alleyway to the crash site, over.
This had now become a combat search and rescue mission, in addition to the ongoing offensive operation.
Eco flight Jag 15, we are surrounded. We need some attacks made on those compounds now. We're going to have more friendly kills.
Spread out. What's clear?
Get out of the way, idiot. I need to get by you. Hey, he does.
Got a guy in here. Go, go, go.
Two guys.
Hey, get him over here now.
Three guys.
Get him out here now. Get him out here.
Shit. Here. All right.
Yeah, these guys check out. They're friendly.
Tell them to stay inside tonight. Roger.
Start engaging those compounds now. We got RPGs, we got some friendly wounded.
Roger, we're getting it up. Over. Thank you. Where the fuck is our kid? Go, man. Come on.
9296.
Roger, you're clear to engage those compounds. Then we're going to try to move back into the crash site and recover any survivors.
We're inbound into that compound. All right, dude, ready?
No.
Jimbo, what are we hearing?
They intercepted them visually, waited till they got out of range of our guys, and nailed them from the sky. About 11 or 12 of them. Well, now there's none, but there were 11 or 12 of them.
Thank you.
I think what's important to remember with this huge operation is that, and it was an operation that still went on for weeks and weeks thereafter, and there were many battles that still followed and towns that these troops had to clear. But the important thing that can't get lost in this is that 7 souls were lost. The 5 crew of the Flipper and our coalition partners, a Brit and a Canadian, and that it made no difference that it was internationals or that it might be reporters, that we had Americans that were willing to risk their lives and go after and make sure to recover the fallen. They had to count the bodies of the fallen. And when I tracked down Sergeant Greg Strickland, whose little 6-man platoon had gone in there and he had counted 5 bodies. And he thought, okay, well, I found the crew. And he was ordered over the radio to go back in and count the bodies again because the reporters are missing. And he told me on camera that he went back in there to look for the reporters, and he said to look for me. I didn't know I was supposed to be on that helicopter, on that Chinook. It was the guys who told me afterwards. It was a punch to the gut because it was this realization that men put their lives at risk to come after reporters, to come after people like me. Even though I'm not a service member, it's not that I have a purpose, but it's that I have this huge responsibility. I have a debt to pay back to these guys. I have to tell their stories.
Did you stay embedded with this group for the entirety of their mission?
No, I was with them for a good week or so, and then it was time for me to disembed. I was trying to get in with the Special Forces teams in Iraq, and I had a hit date to try to get in there. And so it was time for me to hitchhike my way to Iraq. I went to Diyala province, which is the size of Massachusetts, along the Iranian border, because that's where I was going to embed with the Operational Detachment Alpha 072. ODA 072 was a so-called rough team, very austere, out there on the fringe of the empire where every day was truly a fight for survival. Even their Special Forces commander called these 12 men hard-charging and living the Special Forces dream. But they'd just lost one of their own, Rob Pirelli, who I knew from an earlier SF mission.
Tell me about Rob.
Rob was the senior engineer on our team.
Which means what? What does an engineer do?
Well, the engineer is responsible for anything that we have to build or destroy, or he's responsible for movement of all our equipment, accountability for all our equipment. Basically, he's the logistics expert on the team.
So, an engineer, so building stuff and also like blowing stuff up?
Yeah.
Okay. But building stuff too, because I think a lot of folks don't understand that you guys do all sorts of things.
Right. When we moved into this outpost, it was a house basically in the desert surrounded by a barbed wire fence. Within a month, Rob had built the camp. Protective barriers to running electricity for the house, repairing generators.
He was literally working until he went to bed, wake up in the middle of the night to play some online poker, go back to sleep, wake up in the morning, still in his ACUs and his boots, ready to work in the morning with a smile on his face.
We thought it appropriate to name the camp after him since he did so much of that work on his own.
We've been kind of holding off on this one a little bit, but let's talk about Rob and about that day.
Yeah, it's a difficult subject to talk about, but yeah, any questions you want answered, you want to find out about, I'd be more than happy to talk about.
Bring us, let's walk through that day.
We drove out there in an area we've never been before. There was the makings of a small village, and so we stopped. My gunner, he had told me that he saw somebody on top of the roof, somebody who was wearing all black, and he had an AK, and he was running around on top of the roof.
The compound directly to your north, we have one individual up on the roof.
And he had seen people maneuvering towards his building, and he was sporadically firing his weapon from off the top of the roof. And they started moving aerial assets over to our location. My team sergeant, he said, "I've been shot, you know, man down, eagle down." I directed my medic to maneuver up to the building where we thought that he was. And I looked over to my right, and I saw my senior Charlie at the time, Rob. He was laying on his back.
I remember just reaching around the corner and grabbing the strap on his kit and pulling him around the corner of the building. It was crazy because he looked, other than the fact that he was unconscious, he looked like nothing was wrong with him.
And then I looked on his helmet, and there was an entry mark on the helmet. Basically, the round had pierced his helmet. The individual who shot at Rob and Don, he was the battalion commander for all of Al-Qaeda in that area. And so I pulled back the Iraqis, and we used an F-16 to do a couple runs on this objective.
When you heard, what,
I mean... Devastated. Yeah, you know, it hits deep in your heart. Been able to work pretty closely with Rob's family and kind of build, you know, with the loss of Rob, be able to build together and help each other. You know, they feel a great loss for their son, and my wife and I, we feel a great loss for a friend.
The next big mission that happened after Staff Sergeant Rob Pirelli was killed was a mission slated for 9/11 timeframe. The men that I was with were going out and raiding houses and going after targets and going after targets and going after more targets.
It's a big one, huh?
That's going to be a big one. It's going to be a lot of assets coordinated for it. It's going to be going on for contingency from 2,300 to 1,400 next day. So it's going to be a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of bad guys out there.
Hopefully. Maybe not after we're done.
We've got approximately 24 total vehicles going to this objective. Okay, roger.
There were multiple ODAs on this mission, and I was to be part of Assault Force 4 in ODA 094's vehicle.
intel we got today is that they're using the mosque and the school as fortified positions.
The men of 094 were serious gunners, and their motto was "Mach's gut," a saying from a German sniper in World War II, meaning "make it right." And that's what 094 was all about, getting it done.
At this time, I'm located just to the east of that mosque we were talking about, over. Okay, roger. At this time, we're going to start systematically clearing this objective.
Go, get in there. Go. Tansy! Watch your six! Clear, Tansy!
Bro, I got two.
Let's get out of here.
Probably like the one guy we wanted to.
There were insurgents that had squirted out from some of these targets, and they were hunkering in a palm grove. The aircraft overhead thought that they were digging up weapons caches and things like that. The next morning, the Green Berets called in these airstrikes.
Is that cache right around the area where they were glow crawling and shit too, you think?
Yeah, there's 6 of them now.
6?
This is the same guy that we were over there at the mosque earlier. Yeah. He moved from right there where we were all the way over there. And he met up with his buddies.
So I'm certainly picking up weapons from attack.
There he is, spot him.
Or is going to be in hot in about 10 seconds.
Okay, Roger, Ninja, your call at 4 is 10 seconds out. And he's got the cleared hot. Ninja 3-3, Bubba 04. I have visual on 4 at this time and target, over. Fuck yeah! 411, Bubba 04, good hits. And stand by, we're going to put a group of vehicles over there to go do PDA on that objective. Hey, moving. Yeah, you ready? Go. I copy that you have 2 individuals moving in forward from that palm grove that we just engaged.
Came from directly.
It was like a modern-day cavalry charge through this dried-out lake bed in these deep wadis.
We got smoke ahead, 2 on the left. What is that? Left! They're up! Pick up the speed!
We're good, Chief.
You see where it came from? Negative, I did not see where it came from directly. I just know it's from the left side. We got smoke ahead, 2 on the left.
Here, I'll stop so you can fucking shoot. Shoot! Shoot the loading!
There was a moment where we were under fire, where I had to make a decision. Do I stay a journalist or do I cross the line? Because the gunner, Bubba, up above me with the 50 cal, he was out of ammo.
Hey, get ready to get that fucking 50 cal ammo, dude. What? Get 50 cal reload.
I took a breath and said, okay, Chad, throw me your knife.
You have a knife?
Yeah, you can. Can you get it?
Yeah. You have a knife?
I'll open the strap on the ammo can. I'll put the camera down because there was nobody else. I don't think in that moment it made me a combatant. I don't think I necessarily crossed the line journalistically.
Had you thought through that moment before? Or was it one of those things that you just said, if it comes, and I'll...
There becomes a moment where you might have to check your moral compass and your gut and figure out what's the right thing to do. And in my career, there's been moments where, is it the reporter thing or is it the human thing? And I think in times like that, the human thing needs to win out.
Hey, good hit, Stu. Good shoot. Yeah. Move it. Move it. Go.
How old are you?
There's 4 of them that we did catch, and we conducted some tests to determine whether or not they were actually the culprits, the guys that had fired at us. After the test results came back, we knew that those were the 4 guys that we wanted.
So would they be considered snipers or pretty good shots? I know one of them got the truck.
They had a sniper out there, And we did receive fire. A few rounds flew over our head. I know the vehicle that you were in got shot up, and a round actually pierced the armor there.
During that mission, there had been a lull in the firefight after the feeding of the ammo and all of that. I had asked if I could get out of the vehicle and crawl up on top of the vehicle to get some panoramic shots, some wide shots outside of the vehicle. And while I was up there, stuff started happening again. So I jumped off the roof of the vehicle and had a very hard landing. Busted my ankle and busted my wrist. Something was wrong. I knew that I had hurt myself and hurt myself badly, but I tried to fake that I was fine. I didn't want to get sent home. I wanted to keep getting the story. And so I kept trying to fake that I was fine. It got to the point where I couldn't go on air assaults anymore. I couldn't even put weight on the foot. And so it was time for me to go home. Operational Detachment Alpha 072, they did their team photo standing in front of the Pirelli wall. And it was that team photo I brought to Rob's dad, Bob Pirelli.
Above you are 3 C-130s approaching the drop zone with over 174 lethal and highly motivated paratroopers on board. The aircraft are flying in the offset.
All those guys, said how much he built the place up. When you heard about this, what did you think?
Well, when I heard about it, I thought it was nice. I mean, I said, but when I actually saw it, physically saw the design they had done, and I really got the sense that they really did officially name the outpost with his name, and to see the actual drawing done on the side of the wall, and also I think not only that, I think seeing it on a soldier's arm. One of the soldiers had the insignia done, and
tattooed?
Tattooed too.
Tattooed to his arm.
That type of love for each other. We need them because they're him. They're part of him, and them being around makes a big difference to us.
Well, this is the basement, and this is Rob's room, and that's what I call it, Rob's room, because I turned around and I decorated for Rob and all those things. And it's a memorial for Rob. This here is a picture of Rob's unit, one of them anyways. I remember him calling me one time, because I work in constructions, in electrical construction, and he called me one time to ask me how to wire something out there. They wire differently. Their schematics are different than our schematics anyways. So even if I told him the green was ground, he said, well, the wires over here are orange. What do I do? So he figured everything out. So yeah, and they all turn around and they say that Pirelli Outpost, Rob built most of it, and I'm sure he did. Rob loved hockey. You can tell by the cups and all that, he loved the Avalanches. And these are some of the players that he liked. We buried him with his hockey stick, and we buried him with his number 18, his hockey shirt from Franklin. And that went with him.
My dad always said to really get to know Rob, you needed to go to the places he went, experience what he loved, and see the things he built.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you. You too, Sean. How's everything?
It's going.
Good.
It's going.
Good.
How you doing?
Good. Since Sunday, we've
You guys went to States? Yeah. That was awesome. Overtime?
Double overtime.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great game.
I can imagine. That's the first time.
Yeah, in 33 years.
You come from a hockey town, you come from a hockey family. For Dad, he was proud of Rob. You heard that when he announced the games. He started announcing because of Rob.
We got 6 seconds left, 41.6 seconds left in the second period, 1-1 deadlock. A great game. A great game that's treated to one of the best games of the year here.
And every time that Rob touched the puck, it was, you hear him yelling, like, Pirelli's got the puck, Pirelli's got it, he's gonna score. Like, it was, you know, everybody else was like, here comes Venuccio, shoot, save. But when Rob touched the puck, it was, you felt it, you felt his passion.
Back up to the Pirelli on the left side. Pirelli fires the puck up. Venuccio looking down the wrong way. And
he wants Rob to score so badly because he wants to announce this. He wants to announce to the world that, like, Rob just scored.
As we see, Pirelli, I don't know how he ever missed it, but regardless.
Dad wanted to see that outpost. That was something that he, I know he talked about every day, was seeing and trying to get to see the outpost before it was destroyed, because it was the last thing he built. It was the last thing he touched. For our family as a whole, to be able to see what Rob had built may give us some sort of closure. It may give us some sort of opportunity to say goodbye. It may give us another opportunity to meet Rob in a way.
Rob's dad had shared with me that he was talking to his congressman in Massachusetts to try to go into the war zone, and because he wanted to see the combat outpost, the house that his son had built. And there was no way that the congressman or anybody in the government was going to let somebody go over and do something like that, or hopefully not. So he made me promise that I would try to get back over there and let him know that his son's outpost was still there, that his son hadn't been forgotten over there. The Green Berets of 10th Special Forces Group, they knew that I was planning to go back to Iraq with them when they redeployed for the second year. They also knew that I was injured and that I had to come back from the injury, and I would have to prove myself to them on that one as well. I was back with the serious gunners of ODA 094, the Machsgut guys who get it done.
You guys ready?
Yep. You last man.
Hey, on you. All right, here we go, Dish.
They invited me to go through their shoot house with live fire.
Hey, that goes live, remember? Pretty sure. All right. Get in the room. Let's go. Right here, Derek.
Let's go. Ready? Everybody up? Let's go.
Left man. Left man. All right, index.
Did we get it?
Yeah.
After this training, I'd been invited to climb Mount Rainier with wounded special operators. This would be the final test to prove that, that the ankle was back and that I could hack it. On the rope line in front of me was blind Navy SEAL Ryan Jobe, who, if you remember in the American Sniper movie, he was the one who had been shot in the face on that rooftop. And a Marine recon scout who had also been blinded, and an Army soldier who had lost his legs, and a Ranger who had served in Somalia on the Black Hawk Down mission, Kenny Thomas. And at more than 14,000 feet on the top of this volcano, the lesson that I learned from these special operators, from these wounded warrior special operators, you don't quit. And it was that moment that I was able to prove to myself that I was back from the injury and that it was time to get back to Iraq.
Neither one of you heard the story.
I'm sure we haven't.
The last Christmas that Rob was here, which was 2006, we went up to Uncle Ralph's, as we always do. We go up to Uncle Ralph's for Christmas Eve. And opened all the presents. We do what we always do. You and Dad left early, and Rob and I stayed.
Whoa. Jared, what are you looking at?
Who's that? Robbie. Robbie?
When Rob decided he wanted to leave, we got in the car and we left Uncle Ralph's. We were driving home, and it was one of the moments that Rob confided in me for the first time. It was one of those times where he just sort of let it all out. And he told me that he wasn't necessarily planning on coming home.
Oh, from Iraq. Okay. So he had an idea in 2006 that he wouldn't be home.
You know Rob.
Doesn't surprise me, but I didn't. As a mother, he ain't gonna confide in me all that stuff anyways, but I did not know that. I can remember the last time I dropped him at the airport. I saw him that Christmas. And he says, "You don't have to hug me." Until this day, I wish I did.
No, you don't know.
No, you don't. You really don't. It is what it is.
Did you have any idea at that point how you were going to figure out how to get there?
No, I knew I was going to do whatever it took.
Somebody I know.
Hey, what's up?
When I redeployed with them again, Rob's team was in a completely different location, very far from Combat Outpost Pirelli.
My team were the elite unit down here in this province. We're here to bring credibility and legitimacy to the Iraqi security forces.
How do you do that?
Once we get here, we have to identify a fit partner, a foreign internal defense partner. And the partner that we identified is the Nasiriyah SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics Team. So we had to select those operators that we felt would be effective in this area in order to set the conditions for sustainable security.
Everybody, this on you. Knock out 10 push-ups.
زي الكل.
And then we'll take a break. I'm not going to count for you, but you know, if you only do 2, that's on you. You're not getting any stronger.
يلا كل واحد now.
Okay, so on your 10.
10. استعجل أزيد. بسرعة.
Shake it out.
In this rotation in Nazareth, we're not conducting large-scale core search operations. We're leaving those type of operations up to the Iraqi security forces. You know, the IPs are going to do it, or the IA are going to do it. And I think that's a sign of progress, and I think that's what we should be doing. Excitement and the fun and you know the things that they signed up
the adrenaline
to do, you know, are they kind of doing? We're just kind of going by the wayside a little bit, but everybody understands that that is where we should be, and that's a good thing.
So, difference between last year and this year?
Last year, we had to walk 500 meters to go take a shower, and we were going to the bathroom in a hole that I dug in the ground. And this year, I have people wash and fold my laundry. Completely different than last deployment. Honestly, there's times where this deployment I'd say, man, I wish we were back up at you know, Cap Pirelli, because, I mean, I definitely, you know, miss Rob every day. I'd like to go back up, and it'd just be interesting to see what it's evolved into, and just kind of, you know, go back through some memories from being out there, and, you know, kind of walk those paths again.
When Rob had passed, my dad, he would go down to the coffee shop and grab a coffee for himself and also for Rob. He would come down to the cemetery, and it would be his chance to sit and talk with Rob. He would park his car. He would have a pin in his car where Rob's picture would be. And he would walk up to Rob's resting place. Take a pin and poke Rob's coffee. And as it was dripping out, he would drink his coffee with Rob. And that was their time together. My father passed away on September 11, 2012. He was really sick and in a hard place, but he knew it was okay because he was going to see his son again. We wanted to have him buried as close as we could to Rob, and we know that's what he would have wanted, so we made that happen.
Tim, the medic, who had tried to save his Green Beret brother and help him breathe his last breaths, wanted to know that the place that Rob had built, he wanted to know about the changes there. But the military PAOs had said that my embed was with 10th Special Forces Group and was not with 1st Special Forces Group, which was now located where Combat Outpost Pirelli was in Diyala province. They denied my request. So to get there, I'd have to hitchhike from Special Forces A-Team to A-Team more than 300 miles around the war zone. From Nasiriyah, it was to Hilla. From there, went to Baghdad, to Area 4, which was the secret location where those serious gunners of ODA 094 were going out and doing missions.
Alex!
What?
Stay out here.
Who said?
Sister! Step in there, Alex. What's that? What does he do? Like these are free workers. What does he do? Yeah, go ahead, brother. Selling used clothes. He does what? Selling used clothes. He sells used clothes? Yeah. That's what he said. Something store? Used clothes. Yeah. This doesn't match age-wise either.
صباح نعم صباح شنو؟
The one's too young, but the other one might be old enough to be him. Is saying he's giving a different first name, saying his brother. Take both those detainees and go down to Alabama. Out of the source, take a look at both those jackasses. Okay, hey Bob. Yeah. I'm gonna need you and Ranger in about 3 minutes.
Bobby, you move with.
Yeah. Hey Ranger, let's go, brother.
Yalla, Ranger.
Next up.
Hey.
Did you actually plot a course in your own mind? If this didn't work out, you could sense and adjust and you knew somewhere else that you could try? Is that sort of how you approached it?
I always hope for the best, expect the worst and plan accordingly. And I always hope that logic will prevail and people will maybe have a soft spot and get what it is that I was doing, but no. From there, it was to Camp Taji. What's the deal with this bad guy?
He's got a warrant for his arrest. It's a Baghdad warrant. He was an AQI member. Mostly what he's wanted for is the murder of other Iraqi members, mostly another clan. His tribe is very large with IEDs in this area.
What's your name? You're the RTO?
Yep, Roger.
And I'm Alex. Okay, I'm gonna be on your hip or behind you, okay?
Yeah, all right, let's do this.
We got 6 minutes.
And Arrow 25, go ahead, traffic. This time we are supporting Jaguar on guard.
Track the friendly, please.
Tracking the friendly. We have 6 Humvees on the road.
What about 3 minutes out?
Roger. Confirm that our Humvees are rolling up now.
Yeah, Roger. We've got you in sight.
Stay here? Yeah, stay here and watch the backside. Roger.
Okay. I'll try to stay on your left hip, okay?
Be on these trails, actually, go to my right side.
Okay, will do.
Compound that is directly above them to the southeast is a hostile compound. They need to clear that area. How copy?
All right, go. Go. Last man. Get out of the hallway. Okay, check it. Get over your lights. Open.
Target's not here, so these are his cousins. Round him up, take him outside. White t-shirt, that's his cousin. Get him up, quick.
The first house we went to, the target house, was the target's house, his family's house. He was not at that house.
We're just searching the house because this guy's a high-level leader. We're looking for, documents, notebooks, anything that can lead to the next guy. It's called a cascading target. Normally with high-level terrorists, they're like code 104. It's like the highest level of crime in the Iraqi judicial system. And so this guy was wanted on a code 104 warrant.
Why is he a bad guy? Why do we go after this guy? Very basic, broad strokes.
Yeah, he runs a terrorist organization.
Which does what?
The big thing he's pushing for now is IEDs.
And the IED threat has kind of started up a little bit again more recently.
Yeah, here in the last 2 weeks we've had 3 strikes in Tampa, and that coincides with him being released from prison. So
he had been detained and then got released and back out on the streets.
Relay to 7 to let whoever they got over there know that in about 5 minutes I'm going to be coming with the Iraqi army. They better come up with a better story than you last can do, and they'll come right to you.
Okay, go back to that other compound and look for movement.
Checking for movement.
Copy.
You got 2 of them staying in the courtyard there.
Yeah, I think got 2. Copy.
There's 3.
Okay, now there are 3 of them running in.
Yeah, one is, one's a kid.
Yeah. Copy. There's another one.
Another
4, 5.
They have all gone into the northernmost building of the compound. We're continuing to watch.
Yeah, make sure you get hold of those guys jumping. It's a bad area up there. Roger, that's a good copy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we found his brother.
The door.
This is his brother, sir.
Where's your brother?
He says he doesn't know. Says his brother fled on foot just before we got here.
Brother was there. We grabbed his brother, Major Archon in the IAs. Got the story of where he was at. They tried to lie to him, but it's a lot easier for the IAs because they speak the language.
His ass up. Shows him stretch their flag.
3 minutes ago, we heard one individual talking to another individual descending the hill, coming towards the other individual.
Search that tree line. Searching. I got a light or something down there.
Right there. That's him. We are tracking enemy personnel in that area.
which was still on the family's land, but again, the family's land is about 2 kilometers wide in every direction. So that's why we traveled so many canals and so much land.
Guys, be safe tonight. We'll see you
Roger.
tonight.
That's a good copy, and we appreciate the work. Like always, it's great working with you guys.
I managed to get myself to Diyala province, to Bakuba, to what had become this massive forward operating base, Warhorse. Within Warhorse had been the Special Forces headquarters compound. I just boldly walked up and knocked on their door at the Special Forces compound and said, "Hey, I'm Alex Quaid. I spent time with the teams that were here last year, and want to let me in?" And no, no, they did not want to let me in. So that's when it was, okay, plan B. I'll embed with the conventional units that are here, and I will try to hopscotch my way from conventional unit to conventional unit and just try to geographically get closer.
Did you have a time limit that you knew you were working within to try to get to Combat Outpost Pirelli?
No, I was my own person. I was a freelancer. I was at my own expense and unattached with no support and no camera crew and no nothing. So I had all the time in the world, and that worked to my advantage, as did being underestimated.
What exactly are we doing today?
We are going to look for some caches today in one of our villages. I got some intel the other day. There's this possible caches and out in our AO, so we're gonna jointly with the ERU go out there and see if we can find these things. So this is pretty much where we're at nowadays. Joint operations, everything we do.
So what do we expect to find in these caches?
Well, everybody else has been finding them, so I hope we find them too.
Yeah.
If we don't, we're not gonna look too good. We call it Trash Village. It's a whole town lives in nothing but trash. Everything's gonna build character. Well, this is a whole lot of character building today.
To get myself within the vicinity. Combat Outpost Pirelli had ended up urban sprawl. A forward operating base was growing up around it. Fob Cobra. And they didn't even really realize all that much that there was this secret Special Forces A-Team house in there. I managed to get myself embedded with the cavalry unit that was there, co-located where Combat Outpost Pirelli was. And that cavalry unit was from Alaska, the Arctic Wolves. They had just that week received a coffee maker.
We just got coffee pots 2 weeks ago. We're getting readapted to the casket.
It's gonna be a good day.
Major over there, he's running the show. We're just his little followers right now, putting the Iraqi army first.
Dude, most of these guys, these soldiers, personally know the farmers in here. So even to come in here and clear palm groves, it's a social call. You know, they come in here and they talk to their friends, and we try to enforce, you know, the fact that they need to clear this, you know, but they're like, oh no, it's my brother, it's my friend, he's good. Yeah, he might be good, but, you know.
It's a happy morning gathering.
That's all, it's a social call. You can get a few mandarins while you're at it.
Where are you gonna go? Hunting for oranges and stuff?
Yep, we found the terrorists.
Oh, you did?
They were
Right
growing
there.
on trees. Pretty much cut them out at the root.
Terrorists. Has anybody found anything yet? Any caches? Any signs of people?
لحد الآن ما لقيتوا أي مخبأ ماشي؟
No, sir.
Which one?
Oh, in the future. You're gonna go see it in the future?
Somebody just hit one. Holy fuck. That's inside the palm grove. That's a lot of fucking contact.
Hey, was that a striker?
And just like that, it changed in an instant, and we're coming under fire in the palm grove. I'm less than half a mile away from Combat Outpost Pirelli and fulfilling my promise to Rob's A-Team and his Gold Star family. I'd come all this way, and this might keep me from completing that mission?
Hey, start moving back to the vehicles. We're moving back to the vehicles now. Hey, we up? That's the south of our position. Hey, gunners, be advised, we're moving out of the palm groves. Hey, spread out, you guys. Keep eyes for fucking tripwires. Sorry about that. Hey, go. Arm. Hey, keep eyes to the north also.
Holy fuck. Where are you? Right there, you see the smoke?
Yeah.
It's in the palm grove?
Yeah, it's in the palm grove.
Let me find.
Oh, the IA's still
Let's
in
do it,
there,
sir.
man. Dude, there's IA still in there, man. Hey! Hey, just have this vehicle move with us, all right? For cover.
Say back off. Let these guys up front. Hey, let these guys up front.
Which?
The way it rolls now.
LT, explosion right there. Oh, there's the smoke right there.
I'm moving strikers down here for cover, all right?
I'm on your left hip, Ganley. You got two.
There had been an IED that it was, we figured out was made out of a 155, which is an artillery round, and they had wrapped it in C4 and added 30 pounds of munitions to turn it into a wallop of an IED. One Iraqi civilian was killed and 5 were injured.
You consider that a big one?
It's about as big as they get. They're the ones that shake the teeth out of you.
This was the way we drove in to get to drive to get to the palm grove.
Pretty sure it's meant for one of us. And they knew we were here. That's why I think that it was command detonated, because pressure plated, we would have hit it by rolling over.
So command detonated would mean like
somebody,
a trigger.
Yeah,
like
there was a trigger man.
somebody watching and trigger manning.
Exactly.
Our strikers had been going back and forth over this area just 20 minutes earlier, so these soldiers, they figured that, well, the jammers that were on the strikers must have been working to interfere with the signal that the trigger man for this IED must have been putting out. Once we got back to Cobra, the FOB that had grown up around Combat Outpost Pirelli, the cavalry unit that I had been with that day and for the last few days on these types of missions, they came to me and they said they thought that I'd earned my spurs since they were a cavalry unit, and yet they had no spurs to give out there. One of the guys reached into his ruck and pulled out a K-bar, a knife. He said, well, it's blunt, but these are your spurs. And with that, I had a K-bar now in my back pocket, and it was time. A 160th SOAR, Special Operations Aviation Regiment bird, was coming to pick me up, and their LZ, their landing zone, was inside Combat Outpost Pirelli. So even though the Special Forces A-team there didn't want to let me in, they had to if they wanted to get rid of me. We made it to the door and knocked on the door. There was no hello, there was no nothing. They let me in so that I could have my 15 minutes as I waited for the bird that was going to take me back to Baghdad. And I looked around to see the changes. It was good to see that what Rob had built was still there. That this rough team house, alone, on the fringe of the empire, as their Special Forces commander, Major Derek Jones, had called it, that it was still a safe house being used by Special Forces teams in an area that had been an Al-Qaeda sanctuary near the Iranian border, and where every day was a fight for survival, was still here because Rob and his ODA 072 had built it and fortified it. I may have only been on the ground inside Combat Outpost Pirelli for maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20. I'd done what they'd asked, and I was able to let them know that Rob's wall, the T-wall with the symbol that says Combat Outpost Pirelli, was still there.
Did you ever think to yourself, what are the odds of this working out? Pretty low to non-existent, right?
There was no way in hell that I was not going to get this done, that I was not going to complete this mission for Rob's family, for Rob's teammates, because none of these guys quit. And I wasn't going to quit either.
Sunrise or sunset, do you think?
I would say sunset. I don't know, but I would say sunset. He would be on the phone talking to us, and then all of a sudden he'd have to go up on the roof and do God duty.
Keep
so this
watch.
This must be what he had to go through.
Took turns.
Yeah.
Being up there.
This is what he must have had to gone through. Caution. Keep the door closed. Get out of town. Oh, look at that. For me, it's hard to imagine that my son had helped build this. It's because he did build things, but it's a lot bigger than what I thought. Look at all the clothes hanging up here.
We've never until this moment got to see their house.
Right.
And it's the one that Rob built.
That's huge for us. It just makes it so he's real and he really made an impact. The things that he did were important and they mattered.
But he didn't do it for himself. He did it for others.
Yeah. This represents him in a way because he built this for his team. That's who he was.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, if we were watching it with him, he probably would just sit back and we'd be like, you did that? You did that? And he'd be like, yup, I did it.
I guess, like, it doesn't surprise me in a way. I could see Rob doing this and not complaining about it whatsoever.
Right.
Just
oh, yeah.
doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Not having a problem with it.
I just miss Rob.
are they now? On the second day of school. And his mother and Sean in the carriage. His friends just crossed the street without looking. Robbie's so concerned about that.
Well, I shipped out with a job to do, headed to desert sands to build a wall and draw a line, and that wall still stands. They cut me down with a bullet fire, cut down by hands of man. My body lay for all to see, but that wall still stands. It still stands. The land, you might kill the man, but that wall still stands. We're the ones who stand behind it now. They don't know who I am, but what matters most when danger's close is that wall still stands. It still stands. Scorch the land, you might kill the man, but that wall still stands. Now every wall one day will fall, when steel and wood turn to sand. But what I believed was good still holds its ground, and that wall still stands. It still stands. Score!